Awkward. The Raiders traded away their starting quarterback of the last 8 years and made the decision to go forward with arguably a very similar player in Jimmy Garoppolo. I get it. It saved them some money on the contract, and it appears that there was some friction between head coach Josh McDaniels and Derek Carr, but now they might be without a quarterback all over again. If that worst case scenario were to come to fruition, then what moves are left to be made and what's the ceiling? Or more likely, the floor for this team? So back in the beginning of free agency, when the Raiders and Garoppolo's people were in deep conversation regarding the details of his contract, there was a point where reporters that had been staking out the facility were sent home and told that there's nothing wrong. They're just going to have to keep ironing out some details on the deal and they'll be done soon. Well, it turns out that extra time was spent writing in a disclaimer, literally titled Addendum G, because he had failed a physical following foot surgery. This addendum basically states that if Jimmy G can't pass his physicals due to his lingering foot injury, then the Raiders can waive the contract and not owe him a penny. Garoppolo signed this contract knowing this addendum was in there, so he must have had some confidence in the integrity of that foot. In the second paragraph of the addendum, Garoppolo expressly acknowledges and waives the risk of further injury, including potential disability by continuing his career. And from the addendum it states, player also understands that such condition has decreased his ability to play professional football, and that continuing to play professional football may result in deterioration, aggravation, or re-injury of the existing conditions, rendering player physically unable to perform the services that would be required of player by an NFL contract. This could potentially not only cause Jimmy to miss out on money this year, but prevent him from filing any lawsuit against the league down the line to receive additional money by way of disability or insurance claims. Because in the fourth paragraph, Garoppolo waives all claims against the Raiders, the league, and anyone else who could be responsible for anything related to the condition. So it's safe to say that there was very clear language that nobody on Jimmy G's team could dispute, and they are assuming all risk by entering into this contract. The original contract came with an $11.25 million bonus and a matching $11.25 million salary. Due to the injury, the Raiders have moved the signing bonus into a salary, all of which he'll forfeit if he can't pass the physical. The contract was signed back in March, it's been 3 months since then, and now the Raiders might be without a quarterback. So, if he's not available, where do they go next? There are a few options, some far more realistic than others, that they can explore. The first, and most likely to happen if the Raiders waive Jimmy G, is that they'll roll with Brian Hoyer. He has experience in Josh McDaniels' offense and is the second quarterback on the roster. With this kind of an outcome, you might be looking at a few more moves signaling a rebuild if they don't believe they can compete with Hoyer at the helm. Davante Adams could be traded, and they could look to get as many assets as possible to make a move up for one of the coveted quarterbacks in the 2024 draft. This is obviously a worst-case scenario, but unfortunately, the worst-case scenario might be one of the most likely to occur. The next option would be to explore who is left out in the free agency market. The best players available, and I use best lightly here, are Carson Wentz, Matt Ryan, Teddy Bridgewater, and Nick Foles. To me, Bridgewater or Matt Ryan make the most sense here. Wentz has been a steady decline for the last 2 seasons, and from several reports is not a great locker room presence. Bridgewater is extremely capable of coming in and learning a new offense quickly, as it's pretty much what he's been doing his entire career. You can definitely win with Bridgewater, but rarely because of him. As far as Ryan goes, he had a raw deal in Indy as they had one of the worst offensive lines and lack of wide receiver talent he's ever played with, resulting in a far less than stellar performance. But just 2 seasons ago, he threw for 4,000 yards and 20 touchdowns, so he can be a solid game manager with leadership qualities for the Raiders, which is likely what they expected to get from Garoppolo. If Las Vegas goes this route, then they're making an attempt to compete this season and might even try to acquire more help for the offensive line through trade, or perhaps call up Matt Ryan's old friend Julio Jones. Now, the final and least likely scenario that probably brought you here, Tom Brady. Yes, Tom Brady has made a bid and is working through the paperwork to become a partial owner of the Las Vegas Raiders. Yes, he'd be an immediate upgrade even at 45 years old. But even if Tom wanted to come out of retirement, it would be nearly impossible for him to own part of the team and play for it. Per the Las Vegas Review-Journal, Brady's approval by fellow owners could come with the provision that he is fully retired. If so, that eliminates the possibility of him trying to simultaneously own a piece of the franchise while also playing for it. So for him to play for the Raiders, the owners would essentially have to agree that it's allowed. So what this would do if passed is open the door to cheat the system, as the Raiders could pay Brady the vet minimum to play quarterback for them, but pay him whatever amount of profit share as part of the ownership duties. As much as I'd love to see Brady play for the team that he was part of screwing over with the Tuck Rule game and pair with Davante Adams, I just think there are far too many obstacles in the way for it to happen. So, who do you want as the 2023 Raiders quarterback?